Overview of receivable collections. So in this lesson, I'm going to go and give you a complete overview of receivable collections, a number of the important features and the dashboard and real-time information that it provides to collectors for making a possible decision against the delinquent customers. So let's go through the PowerPoint slide, and simultaneously I'm going to keep jumping on to Fusion Applications Cloud for collections to let you understand the features. So to start with, the collections have an interactive dashboard for detailed and real-time information. What those detailed and real-time information would contain. As such, the collections, the entire workbench shows the details of past due transactions that's been defaulted by the customers. In other words, the transactions that haven't been paid on time based on the due date. In other words, they are overdue transactions. Then it lists down the customers based on a scoring criteria which is previously set, and then it also shows the number of transactions that are overdue. It also arranges the transactions based on a bucket. So transactions which are overdue within 1 to 30 days is like one bucket, then from 30 to 60 days is another bucket, then from 60 to 90 days could be the third bucket, and 90 to 180 days could be another bucket. So it basically categorizes based on buckets. So it shows those transactions, and then the collections agents or collectors could take an informed decision, for example, to take an appropriate action, to send customer notices, to send them reminders, to contact them and take notes and take proper actions to recover the past due invoice amounts. So first feature, as I said, is interactive dashboard for detailed and real-time information. And remember, delinquent means that something which is past the due date. So for example, if an invoice is due by 10th of May, it hasn't been paid, so it is like a delinquent invoice. And then example, if it is not paid after the due date in a week, then it will be a delinquent transaction past due by a week period. Okay, so let's switch to Fusion Applications Cloud for collections, and I'm going to show you this interactive dashboard for detailed and real-time information. We'll also go and look at the collections metrics and customer allocations to a collector. We'll also look at delinquency status assignment based on scored value. So basically, based on a preset scoring formula, a score can be assigned to the customer and customer account, and each transaction is scored to determine the delinquency status. So you can also configure your dashboard and arrange the customer based on the scoring criteria. You have something called as a customizable scoring engine, which you can define in your scoring formula to match your business requirements. But what I'm going to show in this particular demonstration is the dashboards wherein scoring can be viewed by each customer account. Okay, so let's go into Fusion Applications Cloud for collections and view all these features one by one. So starting with interactive dashboards. Now before we proceed further, I'm going to show you that we are on release 21B of the cloud application, which is presently the latest Oracle Fusion Cloud ERP applications for Collections Cloud. Alright, so there I am in collections, and in order to view the collections dashboard, simply click on this particular function. It will open a new instance of the browser, and as you could see, the first one is DSO customer list summary details. So what is DSO? DSO stands for days sales outstanding. So number of days which are outstanding, you see here it is expanded, days sales outstanding. So Fox Store is a customer name, outstanding by 342.70 days. So it is basically calculated based on the transactions which are outstanding. Okay, so this is a list of customers based on the outstanding number of days. So the first one is Fox Store, as you could see, but it is decreasing based on the DSO. Okay, and if you come down the top 10 customers, it's gonna show you based on the arranged bucket. Remember, I have just explained you in the PowerPoint presentation that you can tell the system to arrange in buckets the past due transactions. So as you could see, AR overdue 1 to 30 days amount, so it is shown over here. For example, computer service and rentals is a customer. It has got invoices worth $3,420 within 1 to 30 days overdue bucket, and it's got 868,752 as overdue amount within 31 to 60 days, and like a sort of 2 million change in the third bucket, and then the fourth bucket has got 3 million change amount. Okay, so this got categorized, and the collectors can see what's outstanding in and how it can be how old they are or how past due they are, and if they want they can go further in these overdue amounts. So if you click on this particular customer, especially the total overview, you can drill down further and look at the details of the transactions. As you could see, you see that. So here it shows you the aging buckets overdue amount, the same figure or the same view. Now it is column based and it is summarized on top, whereas the details are shown below. So this is one transaction number created on invoice date of 13th of May 2021. These were the payment terms, days overdue, the line entered amount original is this, and the remaining is this. So maybe some discounts would have been given to the customer, some adjustments would have been made. If the customer has raised a dispute, then credit memo would have been given, hence the amount got reduced to this much. Or maybe customer has made some partial payment. So finally this amount has to be paid against the original amount, and the tax amount is this much, and the tax remaining amount is this. So final overdue amount is this amount without the tax. Okay, so likewise you can see details of other overdue transactions listed below, right? And in fact you can go and open each of these transactions in other ways. Okay, so that's one way of looking at the transaction. So let me just go back. So that's the DSO customer list details dashboard. Okay, and other dashboards are pretty much similar. AR overview, debt details, so account receivables overview, debt details, it's pretty much similar. So on one side you've got the bill to customer name, and then the other side you've got the aging buckets and what was the entered line amount and the tax amount which was remaining. Okay, and if you come down you can view the details of those transactions date wise. Okay, and here it is a graphical format also, it is showing overdue, and if you click on that you can further drill down. You see, drill down to detail, and it will take you to the detail of these transactions. I've got another dashboard, AR transaction review drill down. So transaction wise review, you see this is the transaction number, and you can click on these transaction number if you know the transaction number. Otherwise, if you want to drill down by the customer and look at the GUI format, you can view it from here as well. For example, one customer by the name of computer service and rentals, and the associated figures are shown over here. You see the transaction accounted amount is shown over here. You can click on that and look at further details on the associated transaction. Can you see that this is the invoice and this is the transaction number? And then you can further drill down at the transaction number. You can look at the collection promise, the collections payment, or alternatively you can simply review the transaction. So you see now you have come in account receivables, and you can review the entire transaction like this. Okay, and then go back. So let me see if the other form is open. Alright, so just open another browser for us to review the transaction. Likewise, you can look at the collector's promises. So the promises made by the customer that he or she would make the payment against the overdue amount by this date. So the promises can be reviewed, and if the customer wants to change the promise date, then he may request the collector, and based on a mutual agreement, the collectors can update the promise details. Okay. Likewise, payments collected by the collectors could be listed over here. So if you click on that, you would see the details of promises made by the customers over here. And basically you have got to go into the customer details, and you see here you've got the promises, and any open promises are listed over there. And if you click on those customer details and look at the promises here, you can drill down further. The collectors can in fact create a new promise against a particular transaction by taking this particular step. Okay, so I'm going to explain all this in much more detail in my collections related course, because the idea is to give you an overview in this course. So going back to the dashboard, you see that was the promises. Likewise, you've got many other things. The collections related payments can be seen over here, or if the customer wants to make a payment, then the collections agent can process a payment on behalf of the customer using this form. Okay, so I'm going to go back now and look at the other dashboards available. So that was AR transaction review drill down dashboard. As you could see, DSO customer list, AR overview, debt details dashboard, AR transaction review drill down. There are subtle differences. So one is showing overview, one you can drill down into the details of transaction, but everything is shown about overdue customers and associated transaction. Now this dashboard is collections metrics summary. So as you could see, the collections matrix is shown in GUI format as well. The overdue amount, this is the remaining amount. As you could see, the color coding is given at the bottom. So brown one is remaining amount, and the blue ones are original amount. So this is the customer name Fox Stores. The within 1 to 30 days bucket, the aging overdue amount is listed over here as $231,804, whereas the original amount was $245,712. Likewise, you can view based on graphical format. You can click on this one, so it will show you the details of the transaction. Can you see that? And you see the original amount is shown over here at the bottom. It also shows you the transaction numbers. You can always change the customers for this graphics. For example, some other customer, if you choose this, it's going to show you, update the graphic accordingly and show you the aging bucket details at the bottom out here. So those were certain dashboards available to the collector to take an informed decision. But apart from that, the collections has got its own workbench wherein they can drill down. This is via sort of a GUI format drill down. There is another way to drill down in another way if the collection is more conversant, or if the collection wants to avoid a GUI format and simply directly wants to go to the outstanding invoices or outstanding transactions based on the customers, look at their scores and etc. Then another form and another dashboards are available. So let's look at those as one. But before that, let's go back to PowerPoint presentation slide to see whether we have covered the first PowerPoint slide or not. So there I am. I have shown you interactive dashboard for detail and real-time information. Collection metrics is something I'm going to show you. Customer allocations to a customer I'm going to show you. Delinquency status based on scored value I'm going to show you, and customizable scoring engine is something I will show you the scored value. So let's look at the collections metrics and other points that are shown over here. I'm going to show you in the Fusion Cloud. Alright, so other details I've shown. You see the dashboards can be viewed from here, whereas the collectors, other information of the customers for delinquent transactions can be viewed from collections. And then it's going to open a dashboard, and as you could see within that dashboard, it shows you the score on the right hand side based on the scoring criteria you have set up, and each customer would be given a score automatically by the system based on the preset scoring criteria. Okay, it could be more, it could be less, it could be based on the number of delinquent transactions and the aging buckets they are in. Okay, so they are the list of customers, and you can click on any one of the customers. You can look at the customer metrics by going to the customer details, and you see at the top it's showing us the transactions, whereas if you come down, each of the transaction details are shown. For example, this particular transaction, the one where the cursor is, the details of that are shown over here. Any activities pertaining to this transaction, for example any credit memos, any adjustments would be viewed over here, and the transaction lines are over here. So this is the original transaction line, and this is the original transaction header. Okay, I'm going to show you in fact I was hoping to show you the metrics, right? So you see, you go on to the customer details, and here you can see the customer metric. So it basically shows you a number of details pertaining to this customer, and it shows you the aging buckets, the amount pertaining to aging buckets, the aging buckets that you have set, for example 1 to 30 days, 30 to 60, 60 to 90, 90 to 180, and so on. So as you could see, here it shows you the key performance indicator such as average days delinquent, and month-wise and quarter-wise details. The beginning balance for this customer, the current one is this, the previous one was this one, and quarterly balances, it is showing change from previous quarter, so the balance has gone down. Best days sales outstanding, broken promise amount, broken promise count, any promises that the customer made and they have broken can be listed over here. Basically it will determine the customer credit score if they have broken their promises, and that can be updated accordingly based on how you have set up your scoring. The credit sales, the current receivables are shown over here based on this particular quarter. The day sales outstanding, ending balance for the present month and the previous month, the present quarter, previous quarter. Most of it is showing similar because we are simply taking, you know, example of a stale data. It's a demonstration environment, whereas in real-time environment these data from past month to present month will be different. Okay, and here you can see the promised amount, promise count, any sales weightage, DSO, true DSO, weighted average days late, weighted average term. So basically these are customer metrics at a very high level. If you wish to go into the details, then you can go here to transactions and look at those transactions. Okay, and based on the aging buckets which are over here, you can go down further to each of the aging buckets and look at the corresponding transactions. You see, so these are the corresponding transactions. You can go and look at those transactions. For example, this transaction, if you go into the activity, there could be 2 credit memos and associated line for this transaction. Okay, so I have just covered the customer dashboard, the scoring. I have also covered the metrics. I have covered the way you can drill down to the transaction level for each of the customer and look at their past due transaction and associated past due amounts. So let's go back to the presentation slide to understand further point. Alright, so I'm going to go into the next one. Here you see you've got something called customer allocations to a collector. Now the collector is assigned at the customer account level or customer account site level. There is a customer profile associated out there, that is where the collector is assigned. But In this case, when you log in as a collector, and if at all you have been given the privilege, you can always update the collector and assign to another collector if at all that function is given to you. Usually that is a collections manager job. So how that can be done? If you go back to the Fusion class here, let's say in this particular customer's case, there will be a place for collections. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, that was a collector. So in this case, you can always change that collector details to someone else. Okay, so that way you can change the collector at a customer level. But in the customer definition, in the account level, one can go and update the collectors as well. So any new transactions and any past due transaction will be assigned that collector. Alright, so let's go to the next slide. Here you've got other features. View and edit detailed customer account information, integrated customer payment solution, create promises and broken promises can be monitored, manage disputes, manage adjustments. So these are the things you can do it within the collections workbench. I have shown you part of this information. I'm going to show you how one can create promises and manage broken promises. I guess I've shown you that, but that's where the manage disputes and adjustments are also done in the same workbench. So I'm going to quickly show you that. Real-time customer aging with single click. You can have real-time aging information for a delinquent customer. I have shown you that. Complete transaction view with current and historical activities. That is also something I have shown you that. Okay, so I'm going to quickly show you the promises, disputes and adjustments. Let's go back to Oracle Fusion Cloud. So there I am. You can look at the transactions like this at a customer level. If you click on a transaction at the bottom, it shows you details of that transaction, any historical activity that has happened for that particular transaction. So let's say this particular transaction, the details are over here. Okay, so it looks like it is okay, never mind. So any activities associated with this transaction and the transaction line. So this is the transaction detail. These are lines. Activities includes create memo, adjustments, chargebacks, etc, etc. So for any transaction, if you wish to make a payment on behalf of the customer, that payment can be processed. You see manage payments. From here you can choose the payment method. You can go, choose the customer site and hit the submit button to make the payment. I'm not going to do that now, but I'm simply showing you that's the way of making a payment. Here you can specify the payment amount. Then disputes can be managed here. So on behalf of the customer, a collector can submit a dispute and choose the disputed amount or the quantity and submit it to the review and approval of collections manager or receivables manager. Once approved, a dispute will result in automated creation of a credit memo, and that will be applied automatically based on the outstanding amount of the customer. And I have done that previously. I'm going to quickly show you. If I could manage and pull that out, you see that that's where I have for this particular transaction I have created a dispute, and that is ended up in creation of an automated credit memo. Can you see that it got applied automatically? So that's how it works. You see, for this particular transaction I have created two disputes, and they ended up in creation of two credit memos automatically by the system and being applied to this transaction. Hence the total outstanding amount, you see the original amount was $2,763.10, whereas the current amount got reduced after these credit memos got applied, and the final outstanding amount is $2,163.15. Okay, so that's where disputes are created. Adjustments, you can create it over here. You see there are different kinds of adjustments, such as a chargeback or a bad debt and so on. You can choose the adjustment type from here, and the receivables activity, you can choose it and process this adjustment. Okay, and you see the details of all this I have shown you in my receivables course as well as the collections course. Okay, then I'm going to go back to the transaction and the promises. The customer made any promises, those promises can be captured over here. You see, if I click on promise, and this is the transaction amount, and customer calls and says that okay, I'm going to make a payment for this outstanding amount next week by this particular date. So collector can simply note that promise amount against the outstanding amount for that transaction and note it over here, and based on this promise the collector can send a dunning letter to the customer or a reminder letter before the due date the customer has promised. And if at all the customer doesn't pay, it will fall back on the customer side and hit their credit scoring. So again, all those can be captured over here. Okay, now let me go back to the presentation slide. So there I am, and I'm going to go back to the next slide. You see here, send dunning and statement. Advanced collections provide templates for dunning and statements that can be sent to delinquent customers by email, fax or print. For the speedy collections process, collections agent can record follow-up calls and notices and monitor them. So let's go back to Oracle Fusion, and I'm going to show you this point. So here you see if you go into history, let's see, this is where it shows you the dunning letters or any other reminders or warnings that's been sent previously that can be tracked over here. You can resend, or you can send a new warning, anything like that. You can do it over here and track it. You can write any notes over here, capture it, and those notes which were captured previously will be shown over here. Communication will detail the phone numbers, email addresses, etc. of the customer. That can always be updated. Okay, so that's what is the communication or correspondence in relation to past due transactions in the form of demand letters, dunning letters, legal notices and so on, and the templates of which can be defined as a part of Oracle Fusion Collections Cloud setup. Let's go back to the presentation. The last point in this overview of receivables collections is assign strategies and tasks. From collections dashboard, one can assign collection strategies that are a group of tasks to be followed in sequence to expedite the collections process. These tasks can be assigned manually or automatically based on the customer risk score. You can also add new tasks to match your business requirement and collections process. And these strategies have to be predefined, and then you can assign these strategies and associated tasks to the customers within the collections workbench. Let me show you how. I'm going to go back to the collections. Alright, so there I am, and I'm going to go to one of the transactions. Let's see this one, this transaction. And if I go to the profile of the customer, let's see whether I can look at the strategy from here. I don't think I can. I believe the strategy can be assigned at the profile level, customer profile level, and here you see the details of the customer. But whereas when you go to strategies, this is where you can assign a strategy, collection strategy. So presently the strategy assigned is poor customer harsh strategy, and this is a predefined strategy. You can always change that, say something like this, and you can choose another strategy which was predefined. Okay, and apply it to this customer, and associated task will be pulled up automatically and applied. So you see this strategy was applied, and along with that these letters or these actions in the form of task got pulled up automatically. You can predefine the dates of this and when these tasks have to be carried out to the customer. Once it is carried out, you can hit the complete button to complete. You can reassign them, you can cancel them, you can edit tasks to update the information. So this in short is overview of Oracle Receivables collections. Within the collections, as well as I have demonstrated you the collections dashboard. So this will basically give you quite a good idea as to how collections work in Oracle Fusion. The setups and associated details of collections are something I've covered in detail in my course in Oracle Fusion Collections Cloud Fundamentals. Thanks for watching.